Hey everyone. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the vagus nerve. Okay, so what is the vagus nerve? I'll have a separate video talking about all the benefits of the vagus nerve, but this nerve is incredibly beneficial for our body, vital actually for health, and a lot of times with chronic illness or dis-ease in the body, specifically digestive related, but any type really. This nerve is oftentimes unregulated or out of balance. Okay, so this video is going to talk about what it is and kind of where it is here on Bonesy. Okay, but I'll have another video talking about hacks, tips, how to activate it, all that type of stuff in another video. I'm making this one first, but if the link is in the description below for the other video, I'll put it in later, or I'll put it in the description below. Okay, so what is the vagus nerve? Vagus, V-A-G-U-S, vagus. I'm not a fan of editing my videos at this point, so I'm not going to have a big thing that says vagus nerve pop up here, but that's what it is if you Google it, V-A-G-U-S, vagus nerve. So it's a cranial nerve, okay, which is that we have 12 nerves. This is our cranium, our head. Okay, I know that's out of the picture, but okay. And basically we have some nerves that come directly out of the head, directly out of the cranium or the skull, okay, out of the brain. And so the cranial nerve is one of those, is number 10, okay? So an X in Latin, you'll see. And it emerges just under, kind of in the back of the neck, kind of the side of our head, okay? So technically it then comes down and emerges out just above our first spinous process, or our first transverse process, or our first spinal segment. So on yourself, you can basically find your big bone at the back, go down until you feel a soft spot, okay? And then go along the side, I'll go closer along the side, and eventually you're gonna get to your ear, okay? Just behind your ear, you'll feel a bony bump, okay? And between the bony bump and the very back of your ear, there's a little indentation. So right there is where the vagus nerve actually comes out, which is this bump right here. It's called the mastoid process. Not super important, but basically it's a bump there, and it comes out and then it descends along the side of the neck, right underneath and in front of this muscle here. If I lean back, you can see. So if I do that, you can see this muscle here come out, right? So right there, that's our SCM. Can you see that? That's probably better there. There we go, that one. So it comes out like this behind there and descends like this, and then kind of into the front of our neck. So this is the SCM, or sternocleidomastoid. Okay, it helps us turn like this and extend, etc. But this nerve goes right behind, and then it also goes right down the front of the neck. Okay, get your jaw out of the way there, dude. There you go, down the front of the neck here. And then it goes deep underneath the thorax, behind the spine into here. You can kind of see that. And then it kind of goes right in front of our spinal cord, right in front of our column, and then it innervates like everything. And when I say everything, I mean like the lungs, the heart, all the digestive organs, okay? And it goes right down into the pelvis here, and it connects to a bunch of other nerves, okay? But it's hugely important in digestion and the impact of how we process food and process emotions, and it's connected to the brain in terms of relaxation response, okay? As it descends down the neck, we'll go back to where it goes here. It runs behind this muscle, like I said, but it also runs right beside and kind of in contact to, in some ways, to the larynx and pharynx, which is our talking and our singing, how we produce pitch and tone, right, vocal cords. And so one of the things with the vagus nerve that's super important, and ways to activate it, which again I'll talk about in a different video, but if you vibrate the nerve or put a temperature change to a nerve or a pressure change to any nerve, it leads to that nerve being stimulated. Okay, so if a nerve is unregulated, understimulated or underused, or it's not turned on a lot, quote unquote, or firing it a lot, then you can stimulate a nerve by pushing on it or vibrating it, or producing a temperature change to it. Okay, when you do those things, the nerve goes, whoa, what's this? And it makes it fire more, okay? So for example, any nerve, okay? So like your nerves go through your hand here, you can vibrate there, push pressure on it, just like massage, right? I'm an RMT, so massage therapist. So That's a huge part of what we do. So one way to stimulate this as a teaser for the video is to apply cold compress to here. You hear about cold showers, put an ice pack right in here. And again, if you have circulatory issues or that, don't take this as medical advice as a healthcare practitioner, but generally speaking, cold exposure works well. So, but you can do that. You can massage right along your neck in here, talking, singing, humming, all these things vibrate the pharynx and larynx and our vocal cords. If you just go like this and then go, or talk, you'll hear it vibrate, which will vibrate the nerve, which stimulates the nerve. Okay, all that being said, it goes down here and innervates all this. So we have in our nervous system, we have two main parts. We have in our autonomic or the automatic nervous system, we have the type of nervous system that is not automatic, that we're under conscious control of. So for example, if Bonesy here wanted to punch me or slap me in the face and did this, slap me, he's literally saying to his muscles, he's not thinking about it, but he's literally choosing to move his arm, right? He's saying, I want to move my bicep muscle. That's what the brain's kind of doing, right? I'm going to move my bicep muscle and contract it. Oh yeah, okay. Nerve goes up, contract muscle, nerve goes down, muscle contracts, up goes the arm, and then there's a coordinated pattern of that then slapping me, which the brain knows from growing up many times doing this motion, whether it's slapping or basketball or whatever. So that's the under conscious control. Our heartbeat, our digestion, those are not under conscious control, right? We can impact our heartbeat and we can impact how our digestion works, but we don't go, okay, that piece of steak now go into our stomach. Now go into the small intestine. Okay, I'm ready. Can you imagine if we had to do that? It'd be insane, right? It'd be hilarious, actually. We get nothing done. But so that process, though, is part of what the automatic or autonomic nervous system does, it's called. So there's two types of autonomic. There's things that stimulate or make they call it the fight or flight response, the sympathetic side. Okay, so the running after the tiger is the classic example. That's the aspect that's about fleeing. That would be promoting blood flow to the things you need to get away from a threat. So what do? So all the blood flow shunts to your muscles, right? Away from your digestion. Digestion is not important when your life's in danger. It's get blood flow to the muscle so I can run away. Your heart rate increases so you can get oxygen. Your pupils dilate. Think about it. What else do you need to do if you're running fast? Well, you probably need to be really alert. So it's a stress. So your adrenal glands, which sit inside your kidneys, which is pretty much sit right here, right behind this lowest rib, or in the back of the rib. Okay. So the adrenal glands sit on top of that. They release cortisol. Probably heard of the stress hormone cortisol. It's highest in the morning, etc. Right. So that process, though, is the sympathetic. Okay, it's the stress response. The problem is we are in that oftentimes all day, chronic stress versus the acute, right? When you used to get chased by a tiger, the example is then after that you just relax in the meadow, right? And your body would relax. But if your boss is getting mad at you and then you're stressed all day because your kids or whatever, that's a chronic stress. You're always turned on, cortisol is released all the time, leads to this breakdown. The vagus nerve gets turned off then, which is the key thing. The vagus nerve gets turned off because that's on the parasympathetic side, the relaxation side. Okay, so that's the autonomic nervous system sympathetic, but the parasympathetic is the rest and relax, the rest and digest, it's called. So that is the opposite of everything. Blood goes away from the muscles into the digestion. It promotes healing, it promotes growth, it promotes regeneration. Your pupils undilate. Cortisol is not released. So you can think about it as this relaxation response. It's where we normally want to kind of live, more in that side. You actually want to live in coherence, which is a nice balance between the two. That's another conversation, but because you don't want to just be blah all day, really in the too parasympathetic. You want to have a little bit of like stimulation, but you want that balance. I'll talk about that later in a different video. But so our vagus nerve is parasympathetic, and it's one of the main ones that is impacted by stress. And that's primarily because, well, there's a couple reasons, but it connects really strongly to certain parts of our brain. So for example, our limbic system, which is our emotional system in our brain, that aspect, when we're in those really strong negative emotions, say you're feeling fear or shame or something, that our brain, that thought leads to an emotional expression. Our limbic system thinks, oh my goodness, I am feeling fear or shame, and that releases a certain hormone, turns off the vagus nerve, which basically inhibits digestion. So it increases sympathetic, takes away from your parasympathetic. So this vagus nerve, if this is turned off, basically you don't have that parasympathetic rest and relax sensation sent to all your organs. So this is, when people talk about nervous system dysregulation, this is a huge part of it, underappreciated, and now it's becoming this big thing, vagal toning, vagal flossing, you'll see all these nerve hacks, a lot of vagal hacks, which I'll also talk about because it's cool, and I do them all the time. It's amazing. There's amazing stuff that you can do. But that's what those conversations are about. Just if you see that, if you Google that, if you YouTube that, you'll see conversations about those terms. So what you want to do is you want to stimulate the vagus nerve as much as you can. You want to activate that nervous side, because when that parasympathetic's on, the sympathetic gets turned down or down-regulated is what you'll hear in science. Okay, so like I said, there's a million ways to do that. Not literally, but there's a lot. And you can literally do that at any point along the path. You can impact it through your brain because it's a cranial nerve. So you can actually, by changing how you think, meditation, mindfulness, whatever, those things, whatever, they impact the vagus nerve, which then will impact down here. Also, some nerves come directly from the brain and go down, and they produce an action. For example, the slapping my face example. Okay, so if a nerve comes from the brain down the spinal cord, from the spinal cord to the arm, the biceps, and goes, I want to do this, and lift. Okay, so that's the brain sending a signal down to the muscle and making the muscle move. That's called an efferent signal. Okay, there's an effect, E-F-F-E-C-T-E, effect. Okay, so the brain and spinal cord. If I tap on this Bonesy's bicep, that's a sensation. Just like you tap on your own arm, you're going to feel that, right? The reason you feel that is because there's a nerve sensing that pressure, which then goes back to the spinal cord, back to the brain. That's afferent, going back. Okay, I don't really have a rhyme thing for that, but basically that one's going back. So it's sensing it, and then from the sensation you go, oh, get away from here, Dan, or you slap me again. That's the efferent signal that it would give off. Okay, so the vagus, some nerves have both. So in a little nerve fiber, you can think of like a cable or like a hose. In the hose, there's water that goes both ways. There's water that goes down from the brain to here, and there's water that goes back. Motor nerves that produce, for example, this movement, are ones that, this is all coming back to vagus nerve, by the way. Our motor nerves are ones that go from the brain down to here, produce a response. Think of a motor making action happen. Okay, so, and then there's ones that sense it, like the feeling of tapping. So you can have a hose with, some nerves have water going just one way, like a hose. Some nerves have water going the other way. And some nerves have water going both ways. So it's almost like you have a hose, but you can imagine like you have 3 hoses or 2 hoses. They're together, wrapped around it, and around all 3 hoses is one big hose. Which is actually kind of what it is actually like. So in a nerve, there's like little cells going this way and little cells going that way. So there's both, 2 highways. So the vagus nerve is one of those. 80%, this is the key thing, 80% of the fibers of the vagus nerve come from the body back to the brain. So I'll say that again. 80% of the nerve fibers that go in the vagus nerve, the highway that flows both ways, the hose, 80% come from here and go to here. Only 20% go from the brain down, which means that 80% of the fibers are sensing what's happening down here and sending that information to the brain. Okay? So what that means is if we are stressed, anxious, if we eat, a better example is if we have, say we have food poisoning, or we eat a bunch of sugar and we have this inflammation going on in our gut, or we have an injury here, or anything, whatever, butterflies in your stomach, that's going the other way. But that's our brain impacting our stomach. So it's a very real thing. But when you have that happening, then the brain's like, the body's like, there's inflammation here. A little nerve senses, part of the vagus nerve, a little branch of the tree you can think about, maybe here right in our stomach goes, oh, there's inflammation here. Or say in our intestine, the one that goes to our small intestine, say our duodenum, okay? Say that part of it. Right there it goes, oh, there's inflammation here because I ate that like Whopper with all that undercooked meat. sorry Arby's or Wendy's, but like Burger King, yeah. When that happens, it senses the little bit of inflammation, goes, oh, there's inflammation, sends a signal up the vagus nerve, back to the brain, we have inflammation in the gut, impacts our mood, and many other things. But that's coming from here up to here, okay? So we can see as we can change this by eating healthier, less stimulation, and 90%, 95% of our serotonin, our feel-good molecule, one of our feel-good molecules, is produced in the gut. Okay, so there's huge implications here, right? This is called the second brain, the enteric nervous system. It functions by itself. You cut this vagus nerve in half, this all works by itself without the brain, which is another conversation, but it's amazing. So all that being said, we can impact this by eating better, by doing things that are better for our gut. Deep breathing, because it impacts the lungs, right? Heart-centered, heart coherence, meditations you hear people talk about, all this stuff. Or you can do stuff from the brain's perspective, mindfulness, meditation. Again, I'll do a separate video on this, but these are the type of things you can do to activate this. It'll improve your digestion, it'll put you into ease and flow. The impacts are incredible of having this vagus nerve. You feel connected to yourself, other people, divine, God, however you see it, your heart, your soul. You're connected to that. You feel at one, you feel at ease. All those things just all flow together when the vagus nerve is activated and in balance, okay? So that's the vagus nerve. I know it was a little bit all over the place, but that was really fun. I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, I'll plan to make more videos on ways to really hack this. I mentioned a lot quick there, but I'll go in more detail. I know this was a lot and it was fast, but hopefully that kind of gives you some information on the vagus. There's so much information out there, it's hard to follow and different terms and whatever, so hopefully that kind of helps and you appreciate the bones you hear. Awesome, guys. Have a good one.